Hey everyone, Vegan Cupid here, vegan matchmaker and dating coach. I love people, I love animals, and I love love. And so today I have a special video interview that I am doing with a client of mine, Miss L. So my goal is to inspire everyone to take action of their love lives by working with me. Okay. So I wanted her to share her experience. And just to give you a little background information, because it's kind of interesting. So she originally reached out to me in January because she had read an article about me in Veg News. She sent me an email, gave her the link to book a call. And then she replied and she said, you know what? She said, your questions that you asked in your Calendly link were so good that it made me realize that I'm not quite ready. So I said, that's fine. You know, you can continue watching my videos, and when you're ready, reach out to me. And then June comes, and I heard from her again, and she said, I'm finally ready. She booked a call, and I was really, really excited. And so here she is. I'm gonna bring her in. Hello.
Hello.
And so I would love for you to share, like, what was it? You know, January to June. That's quite some time. So what happened in between? What prompted you to finally make the decision to reach out to me?
Well, it's interesting because I'd already been doing meditation and doing lots of self-reflection and kind of all of that stuff. So I kind of knew what your questions were getting at when I was answering them. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not quite ready. And I know that, but I also know I can get there. So I just wanted to, and I knew that it would be an investment for me. And so I knew that I wanted to make sure that I was really ready. So I just sort of put it aside, but I did keep thinking about it. And reflecting and working on myself and in my mindfulness practice and all that, just kind of thinking about it. So then I think it was probably just COVID, because you're just like, I'm not able to, I really had gotten into a flow of going out and being social and finding my people and feeling much more, even because of your questions, starting to like open up a little bit and realize that I should be thinking about potentially finding people, out and about. Well, then out and about just quits. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a couple things, a really good period of time to just work on myself broadly. And then two, this is a really good time to do this real deep work that you offer in your program on this. And because I'm not going to be meeting anybody in person anytime soon. So the whole idea of, your Zoom calls and all the aspects of your program, it's just like, what? There's no reason not to. And I was open and ready. And also I think realizing in COVID, which a lot of people do, I'm in my house alone all day long. And it's just like, okay, that's fine if I know I can go see people, but it really sort of hits it home when you're like, oh God, it would be nice if I had a partner, or someone to see pretty regularly here. So that's what did it.
Yeah, and you're not alone, right? COVID has forever changed the way that we view life and relationships and priorities and goals. It's so many things, right? But what sets you apart from a lot of other people is that you gave yourself permission to go through this process, right? You decided to invest in yourself. And we were just talking earlier, and you said that you weren't necessarily um you know the financial part for you was just like, it sounded like um you just had a moment where you're like, I need to do this. So can you just share a bit more about what that was like for you?
Yeah, well, I in way times past, I've like done kind of a matchmaking thing or whatever, and the check that I signed for that was significant to me at the time too, but I still felt it was worth it. So then I was sort of aware that this wasn't going to be like, a couple $100. I knew that it was going to be more of an investment. And so uh, the other thing that I know about myself, and I think this is human behavior, it's almost like the reason that you have to go to grad school is that you have to take it seriously, pay that money, because then you do the work, all that. So there are a lot of ways that this program and working with you felt like investing in grad school, from the cohorts of the people, that we'd be in calls with, et cetera. I just was like, everything good that I've done where I've really been aware that I need to make a life change, has ended up being a thing where I've got to like, put a signature on the line and know that I'm going to invest some money, whether I feel like I've got all this money or not. And make that decision. So it's an investment, and anytime I've made an investment, it's actually triggered me to take the work seriously. And so I knew that I needed that final push.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just took the words right out of my mouth. And this is what I tell people. This is an investment in yourself, in your future. And when you invest in yourself at that level, it does set something off in your brain. You're like, oh shit, I just spent a lot of money. I better do the work, the exercises. I better take this seriously. I better be all in. There's just this psychological thing that happens, right?
Yep.
And so for me, again, like, this program is all about helping people, but you need to be in the right mindset. You need to be able, again, to really give yourself permission and invest in yourself. So yeah, so thanks for sharing that. And so we had our Cupid call, and during that very first call, you were talking about how you were, you're a very good connector, and you were always the one introducing men to your friends. So tell me a bit more about that and the realization that we came to together.
Well, it's also kind of what I do for work, which is I see an organization that needs to know another organization so that they can collaborate on the climate work that they do, say. And I just keep doing that. Or I'll be like, I have this friend with a small business, and this person needs to hire someone who knows how to do that. I see these things, I'm monitoring them, and I just keep going, here, you guys meet. The other aspect of that is that I tend to go, you guys get together, and then the whole point is that I walk away. Like, I don't want to have ownership of whether or not the new collaboration or the kind of, if there's a love match or whatever I'm doing, I don't want to be tied to that as much. And so my work in my life has been about, you guys need to meet. Okay, go have fun. And then I realized, and then with your help, it's like, oh, I should be thinking about that and opening myself up to that myself. Maybe there are men out there that I've missed that I maybe was like sharing with, introducing to somebody else that really would have been a good fit for me. And just, I'm oblivious. And so just paying attention to that and trying to figure out how to use my skill in that for myself.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like, so many times love is right in front of our nose, but when we have our guard up, we're not seeing that, right?
And
So
to your point, it was my guard is up. And that's another thing that I had to really work through with your program. It's just constantly like, we talk about in one of the modules about, first date questions and how to phrase that. And I was just like, I can see how I've had my guard up this whole time. And so introducing people to each other and walking away has been a total guard up thing.
exactly. And that's why I always say, you are not single for the reason you think you are. And the reason most of the time is you are blocking yourself by putting up walls. So you had your guard up, right? Just like a lot of people do. So that's what I help people do, break down the walls. And so you went through my 10-week program, which consisted of the modules, the weekly calls, the private Facebook group. And you went through some pretty amazing mindset shifts, like, pretty early on. So can you please share a bit of like what your experience was, when you first started the program and as you were transitioning?
Yeah, I mean, I think partially it was everything that we've just talked about, which is I was ready, but I wasn't acting. And so as soon as I did the first module, I was like, so not necessarily in love matches, but just in the way that I interact with people changed. So I think one of my examples was there's a guy that walks his dog in my neighborhood. I knew he wasn't single, but again, I tend to put my guard up. I don't know why. I guess I'm partially an introvert. So I have my guard up. I meet people. I like to have small chats and then walk away. I don't know why, right? Because it's just this thing. And so we were having a chat about dogs, and I knew he was married. It was, again, not a love thing at all, but I was just like, in my head, I was like, this guy's really fun to talk to. We've got a lot in common. And so I just was like, after the first module, I was more aware of just like noticing and going with the flow of that conversation and not, not stopping it or not. So it opened me up to conversations I would have with people casually. Another part of, I can't remember which module it was connected to, but there had been some discussion in the Zoom call about texting like crazy and getting on the phone with somebody or getting on a video chat, how that works. And this awareness, I guess, that for people that are more middle-aged, like me, I was just like, I'm not a frantic texter. And that meant that later in the week after the module, I think, I got into a text conversation with a guy friend of mine that I don't know if it was love interest on his side at all, but we've become friends. And he was texting me short bits, and we were in this conversation, and I just was like, I was like, this is ridiculous. So I just texted him and said, I'm going to call you right now. And so we called, and we actually had like a 10-minute conversation, kind of an update, right? Very enjoyable. I think it was much better. So just an awareness of, instead of just getting mad about the texting, which I had done in the past, and that I would probably be really short in the text messages, and this again is mainly with friends, but it's good practice for when I'm sort of dating somebody, that to just be like, this is silly, to convert it to a phone call or a video chat. So it was just an awareness of that and what was making me irritated and why was I irritated, and then just being brave, I guess, to like switch it to that next kind of more intimate level. And that came from just raised awareness through the modules.
That's amazing. And let's talk a bit about the weekly group coaching calls on Zoom. So what was your experience? And I'll start off by saying that we loved having you on there. You were so much fun. You were so opinionated, in a good way. And so, and these calls again are designed as a safe space for all of my clients and I to get together, to share our feelings, to communicate, to support each other, to motivate each other. And a lot of my clients, like that's their, like, one of their favorite parts of the program. So what was your experience with the calls, and how did it help you?
It definitely was one of my favorites, because it was sort of reminding me of a grad school cohort, in that these are people that are kind of going through the same thing with you. What I also really loved is that everything that you do is all ages, like we're in a big mass together. So it isn't like, okay, today I'm going to have the call with the middle-aged women and tomorrow I'm going to have the call with the 30-year-old men. You know what I mean? Like we were all in this big mix together, and the energy of that was really interesting. And I think that, as you mentioned, I'm quite opinionated. So sometimes it was really fun. Like I'd get into this, and some of the people on the call would be younger men who were kind of having, certain issues. And I would just be like, oh, this is what you need to do. So I would just kind of jump in. And because we'd become friends through that call or through the process of that, they appreciated it. And it was, then we'd have your advice, and then we were sort of teasing and joking. But I think that what happens is, the dynamic is, we tease and we joke and we're giving examples and we get really comfortable and safe with each other. And so then we are learning stuff, and I think there's plenty to learn from people of all ages and wherever they're from in the country or, continent. And it was just really enjoyable for me to get to know the other people and kind of what their concerns were and their experiences were. And then they would say, I tried this app or that app. And, we would discuss whether apps are even worth it and all that. So it was just really enjoyable. And it was fun to get to know, a very small group of people in this, as you said, very safe space. And I think having that safe space, the way that you organize so much of this as a safe space, is so unusual, and really helpful. I don't know if I would, genderize it or whatever, but I feel like women especially would probably really appreciate what a safe space it is. And the fact that you're very attentive and monitoring stuff. So if stuff goes down a wrong path or, gets a little weird, you'll loop it back and kind of get it back to fun and learning stuff. So I really enjoyed them.
That's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so grateful to, I love doing these calls. I love being able to be all part of it, right? So it's this amazing collective of vegan singles who are so committed to finding love. And where else can you be in that kind of environment, right? Where we're all sharing and helping each other, and everyone brings something different to the table. And that's what I love. And that's what we've discussed, like you were like the big sister. And
I'm happy
and
to be that.
and I'm like the really nice Canadian, who's very polite. And
Yes, you are.
so it's I love that. And friendships are definitely formed throughout this program, right? So it's yeah, it's really special. So to me, that's why the groups are so instrumental. And thank you so much for sharing that. And so you also participated in one of my Zoom hangouts, and I know a lot of people are curious about those. A lot of people, I've heard all kinds of questions like, oh, well, I'm in my 50s. What if it's all full of 20-year-olds? And
Mhm.
what if it's like all men, all women, or I'm just not sure. I'm
Mhm.
shy. So
Mhm.
what can you tell people about your experience?
Well, I totally understand all of those reservations, but again, because you probably, of course, because you've built this up over so many years, your networks are big, your reach for these is significant. So the people that show up ended up being quite a gender balance. And again, a variety of ages and kind of all that. And I think this is a kind of part of the era that we live in, maybe. More people have gotten used to Zoom calls and understanding the chat box. And I think that combination was incredible because you did a wonderful job of walking through and sort of asking people questions and getting them to talk, and then maybe sort of riffing off of somebody else's answer to start a new line of questions, et cetera. And so there was a through line and we could all kind of get into it. And everyone, most people were quite familiar with Zoom enough that if they realized that they weren't going to keep chiming in, but it was really fun to then keep commenting and kind of connecting with each other in the chat box. So again, it was just, it was an hour. I think this one went a little longer because people were having fun, but it's just like a big soup bowl, right? Just throwing all these people in, and they're all sort of different and varied. And a lot of them, it was the first time and they didn't really know, but it was really just fun. It was like being at some sort of random cocktail party, and it did really feel like a safe space. So I think the other thing about Zoom is that people aren't checking each other out physically. And I think there's something to be said for that, just an awareness that it's not going to be this first thing where everyone walks in and goes, oh, she's hot, or like, it's just not that at all. It's just like this room full of faces of people that start out with this baseline, value of veganism. And so you don't even have to get into that, right? It's a safe space and it's just really fun. So I would recommend that everyone should give at least one a try because you'd be surprised.
Yeah, and I have something for everyone, right? With all the different themes. And I'm just going to continue adding more and more themes to unite people together beyond just being vegetarian or vegan and single, right? So
Mhm.
I did a wine lovers, I'm doing fitness lovers, I'm doing spiritual vegans, atheists, LGBTQ. I'm going to add a dog lovers. People are just
Oh,
sending me a bunch of requests. Yeah, they're sending me a bunch of requests for themes that they want me to add. So I'm just going to continue doing it, even if COVID, all of a sudden stops, because,
oh,
it's all about connecting with people. So thanks for sharing that. And so do you have any, final thoughts, words of encouragement for anyone, thinking of joining the program, but they're just not sure if it's going to work for them, if it's, if it's worthwhile investment. Yeah, what can you share?
yeah. I mean, I think given what we've discussed, I do want to just emphasize that even just doing that first phone call with you is really helpful. The Cupid call or whatever you call it, filling out the form to do the call starts you thinking, and to be really honest with yourself, if just like I was, if you aren't quite there, it, but then to have a call with you, I really encourage people because this is new to me, thinking about a key value and then launching into a matchmaking process from there. I swear that even before I saw the thing in Veg Love on you, it didn't even really occur to me or emerge in my brain that I would, if I went on one of those apps, I would say, I would say that I was vegan and how limiting that would be. Um, and that kind of the awareness of that alone, and the fact that you already have these you've built up networks of these people for so long that you've done like a whole bunch of the work. And I would also say that anything that comes of this is not wasted time. You will learn so much. So I think the investment has definitely been worth it from my perspective, and really fun and really self growth related. Then I would also say that what seems to be true of the folks that I've met and on the Zoom call and stuff is this is not a immediate, here you go, here's your guy. And I came into that knowing it, but to reiterate, the patience of this is not, I'm not sitting here twiddling my thumbs going, oh, I hope Kieran finds a match for me in the next couple of months. I realize that this is just an opening and a new group of people, and I get to know them. And whenever some amazing thing happens, that's great. But also what you've done is open up me for how I'm thinking about meeting vegan people in real life, right? And leveraging that and getting more comfortable with that. So you've started much more than actually your work can contain. All of that is to say that the investment pays off. It pays off, and it pays off big in comparison to the time that you would waste. The fact that you get to meet a bunch more vegans and kind of all swap stories about kind of how we're still in this teeny tiny niche. I don't know why, but why this is just a small group of people. So I would highly recommend it for people to explore it and really take it seriously to do it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. It's really been great having you, and we all miss you very much.
Oh, you're
but I
welcome.
but I wish you the very best, and I know that your special person is out there, and it's going to happen. So I'm so proud of you for putting yourself out there, for being brave, for believing in yourself, for giving yourself permission. Because once you do those things and you really put your mind to it, magical things happen. So thank you
Great.
so much.
Thank you so much, Karen.